Hi, my name is Kelcey, and I am a registered nurse in the city of brotherly love. And I think, like a lot of people, I started off 2020 ringing it right in, drinks in both hands and confetti and sequins all over my outfit. And I was toasting with my fiance to what was surely going to be the best year of our lives. This was the year we were going to get married and the year that we were going to move into our house together. And it was all starting with a new job for me in January. I transferred hospitals and I moved into the ICU. And I was so excited. Critical care had always been my goal and my end game. I wanted so badly to be one of those like badass ICU nurses that knows so much and has all this experience, and I was thrilled to be starting. So it was a few months, it was a few weeks into the new job that we started hearing the whispers of coronavirus. And it feels like almost overnight we went from, well, there's this thing on the news somewhere else, that we don't really need to worry about, to, okay, it's here. Management is telling us we need to wear a surgical mask at all times, and we should probably be recycling that mask and wearing it for an undisclosed number of days. It was almost more anxiety producing to not be at work, because if you were at work, you knew it was going on. But if you had a stretch of days off, you'd come to work and be like, well, I don't know what the new rules are. What's the new stuff that we're doing? I don't know. Like, it was literally overnight that we went from wear a mask in patient care areas to you weren't even allowed in the door of the hospital without your face covered, like that quickly overnight. And there was almost this calm before the storm. Like, people had, started to stay home and like weren't really coming into the hospital when some of them probably should have come. But people were trying to stay home, and we were trying to clear out as many beds as we could to other floors or facilities, because we were like, this thing looks pretty bad. We need to get these ICU beds open. Excuse me. The first time I walked into a COVID room, it was like walking on the moon. I got in there and I actually laughed out loud at how ridiculous I felt and how anxious and nervous I was, that I was nervous laughing in my little spacesuit. I was probably like 8 weeks in, and I'm trying to, learn the policies of this place and the equipment that's different from what I was used to and where stuff is on the unit. And here I was going into a COVID room when I was still kind of getting my footing at the new job. And we had converted all of our rooms to be negative pressure. So all of them now had this little machine in the corner of the room to regulate the airflow. And it was just constantly like making noise in the corner. So you go in, and you can't hear anything because this machine's going in the corner. You can't see anything because your face shield's been wiped down 100 times. And you're in your little suit, and I was like, I feel like I'm on the moon. And I got super claustrophobic and nervous and afraid, and I panicked. And I was like, what do I do? How do I even be a nurse? It got better. After doing it a couple of times, you get used to it and it's a lot less scary. But you definitely needed to make sure that you made a list of all the things you needed to bring in, and then all of the things you needed to do while you were in there, because it was such a process to get dressed and to enter the room. You didn't want to leave anything behind, because if you did, you would be in there and you're like, oh, I forgot this. Like, you have to put the call bell on, wait for someone to answer it, scream at them through the door, hope that they understand you, wait for them to bring whatever you needed, and hope that it's the right thing. So list making was very helpful. Supplies were also limited. We were sharing a lot of things. The face shields, we would wipe them down between uses and pass them off to the next person. So you'd come out, you're drenched in sweat. I wipe down my face shield and pass it off to the next person to throw on their sweaty head. We were recycling our N95s. The most recent process said that it was acceptable to reuse the same mask after being sterilized up to 20 times. So you can imagine it didn't inspire a lot of confidence when we've been taught that these masks are good for one time and then you throw it away. I think one of the hardest parts for me was being brand new to the ICU. I only had 2 years of nursing under my belt in the first place. And then I'm new to this hospital, new to their policies, new to their equipment. And everybody was just so sick. The patients were so sick. Everybody's assignment sucked. Everybody was super busy. And I felt like I needed so much support. And, I'm new to critical care. I'm like, what do I do? Send help. But even my colleagues that had years of experience said that this was a different animal. And, we're still dealing with a disease we don't know a ton about. I was titrating medications that I had just learned about that day. I was trying to troubleshoot problems that I had no idea where to even begin solving. I can't even describe the frustration and the fear that I felt in those moments. I was afraid at my lack of experience, and I was frustrated that no matter what interventions I tried, sometimes nothing helped. Nothing worked, and this person was just really sick. There are many times where it was just you and the patient in the room, and they're circling the drain, and there's a crowd of people outside shouting at you through the door, telling you interventions you can try. And it was so challenging to be in the room, be like, okay, this is what's happening in front of me, and I'm trying to do what I can with what's in front of me, but also keep my ear to the door for people giving me advice and things to try. And it was so frustrating. It makes me think of this one experience in particular. I was receiving a transfer from the floors. She was a rapid response for increasing oxygen requirements. And I was only about a week in, and it's, this 23-year-old girl, high flow nasal cannula. I was like, amazing, I can do this. This is fine. Everything is fine. So she got to us around 9 p.m. and I was in the room until 12:30. So I was sweating. I was hot. I had to pee. It took a long time to get her settled and to get her comfortable on the highest of high flow nasal cannulas. Excuse me. But when she got to us, she was already huffing and puffing. She was having a hard time. And finally, by the early hours of the morning, she said, I am too tired. I can't do this. And the doctors decided we could finally intubate after struggling with it all night. So everyone goes out and they're, preparing, and it's just her and I in the room. And she asked me to call her mom. So she gets her phone and she dials the number, and she could barely even get out a full sentence, and she was totally out of breath. So I had to talk to her mom, and I had to tell her that I'm sorry you can't come visit, but your daughter can't breathe, so we're gonna tube her. And I had tears in my eyes trying to explain it to this woman. And right before everybody came in to do the intubation, which I had also never done before, so that was already a panic in my mind, this girl, 23 years old, grabs my hand and says, I don't want to die. And what do you even say to that? What could I have said to this girl who is not much younger than me that everything's going to be okay? Because clearly what I'm seeing, things are not okay. And it was so hard for me, because this could have been me. There was no difference between me and this girl in the bed, and this disease did not discriminate between old or young or comorbidities or what. It took no prisoners. Excuse me. But my coworkers are amazing, and they helped me through that experience, my first intubation, and I will never ever be able to thank them enough for all of the help and support that they provided to me. There were many times where I was uncertain, or I was afraid, or I didn't even know where to start with helping this patient, and without any second thoughts, without any, inconvenient grumblings, my coworkers suited up and jumped into the room with me. We went in to help each other. We waited outside the rooms to pass stuff back and forth. There's not a ton of downtime in nursing already, but in a COVID ICU, if you're not in your own rooms doing stuff, you're waiting outside someone else's to help them out. You're going into someone else's room. It was really all hands on deck, and it was exhausting. 12 hours just nonstop. Many of our ORs closed to elective surgeries, so a lot of our CRNAs redeployed and worked with respiratory because there was just so many patients that needed oxygen, like supplemental oxygen. So we had CRNAs on the floor. We had OR nurses who would float around the unit getting labs and, fixing equipment and helping us out in other ways. And I got to meet so many wonderful, caring, and compassionate nurses that I probably would have never gotten to meet before that. And it didn't matter if you were a brand new nurse or if you had 30 years of experience. We had nurses put off their retirement so that they could stick around and help out during COVID. And it was incredible, the collaboration and the teamwork that came about because of it. I would never have made it through without those folks. We physically helped each other with the patients in the rooms, but we also talked about, what was working, what wasn't working, to try and find solutions. We made jokes. We asked about each other's families because this whole situation was so much more than just, leave your work at the door. Like, how are things at home? Did you eat today? Have you had any water to drink? We checked in with each other. I felt strengthened by the friendship that I received from these folks. And these men and women are bold and they are brave, and they were incredible, incredible resources and friends to me through the entire experience. I will never be able to thank them enough. And they were so brave every time they went into the room. And I think there was a lot of disconnect between who was going into the rooms and who was not. Respiratory and nursing really took the brunt of the work, which was challenging because doctors want you to be doing things while you're in the room. And then you're in there and family wanted to call for an update. They wanted to FaceTime and all that. And it was so hard because I want to do it all, but sometimes you really just couldn't. I want to give you the update, but there's not a lot that's happened. I want you to FaceTime with your family member, but that means I need to stand in there with the iPad while you guys look at your family member, and they're in the bed, they're on the ventilator, they're sedated, they're paralyzed, and family was, upset with the quality of the video or the noise from the negative pressure machines. And it was hard. It was hard not to take the criticisms personally, and that they were frustrated with the situation and not necessarily at me. It was challenging. There was one family member who wanted to FaceTime her parent who was critically ill, but she didn't have a smartphone. And she just kept saying, I just want to come in. I just want to come in. And I said, unfortunately, I'm sure you can understand that we aren't allowed to have visitors right now because of how deadly this virus is. And she shot back immediately saying, actually, I don't understand why you can't have visitors. You nurses go around and you guys get to do whatever you want. And I didn't even know what to say, because whatever I want was not to be in the hospital. Whatever I want was not exposing myself to this illness. Whatever I want is not to be toiling away for hours and hours on a patient who I know is never going to survive this. Excuse me. The word hero was thrown around a lot. Hero and essential. And people clapped for us at random times of the day, and airplanes flew around to show their support. But the truth is, I don't think any of us wanted to be a COVID hero. I'm 26 years old. I was not ready to lay down my life fighting this illness. The day before I went into work, knowing that we were a full COVID ICU now, I sat with my fiance on the couch and we talked about what should happen if I were to get sick. We talked about what to do if I was hospitalized, what to do if I was critically ill. We went from planning our dream wedding to essentially planning end-of-life care for me. And this was a conversation I was not expecting for years and years and years, and here we were having it right now. And I cried a lot. I didn't cry because, oh, what would happen to me? I cried because what if I brought this home to him or to my family and got them sick? I cried because I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel smart enough. I didn't feel prepared enough to help these patients. And I cried because we went from planning the happiest time in my life to what was one of the darkest and most uncertain and scary times in my life. We went from imagining our life and our future together to me telling him that it was okay if he carried on after I was dead. Oh wow, really took a dark turn there. Can we do that again? I cried because I went from imagining our life and our future together to me telling him that it was okay for him to carry on if I was gone. As the quarantine started lifting, I had a lot of friends reach out and ask me, is it okay to do this? Is it okay to do that? And I, yes, like you guys can, try out with this new normal and, wear your mask, but we don't get to completely forget about coronavirus. We don't get to do that just because we're in the green phase. We know that this is not over, and we know that, if this continues, our hospitals can be overrun again. Excuse me. We know that as people continue to disregard reputable information and methods that are keeping others safe, we can be back in the thick of it once again. And then maybe we'll be essential again. Maybe we'll be heroes again, because somewhere in all of this, we stopped being essential. We stopped following factual information and things that would keep us safe. We stopped applauding healthcare workers that wear N95s for hours and hours and hours to protesting that a face mask is an infringement of rights. Somehow we went from admiring those who were caring for the sick to protesting for our right to a haircut. Somehow we went from being essential to saying that this was all a hoax or a plandemic. And to me, it sort of feels like being stabbed in the back. Like we were called heroes, but then all the things we were asking for, to stay home, to wear a mask, to keep each other safe, were being protested. And when you look something like COVID in the eye, it boggles my mind that we wouldn't all want to work together to try and get rid of this disease, why we wouldn't want to come together. My fiance and I are still planning to get married on our original date in October. We've had to change our plans, and luxuries of open bars and unlimited guests and mingling and dancing, all of the things that I thought would be at our wedding day have had to go to the wayside. But the cost of someone getting sick or losing a loved one is not worth me getting to have a big party. And we've lost thousands of dollars to do that. But through all of this, love has been essential to me. Love from him, from my family, from my friends and my coworkers, and honestly even complete strangers who have reached out and been so kind and supportive. We're just happy to marry each other, whether it's with everyone we know or if it's just the two of us and the officiant. I am just thrilled to be able to marry him. And if anything, this is going to make for a story to tell the grandkids years and years from now. Thank you.